Hey everyone, this is Pat Mesiti and welcome to Live at 5. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever made a promise? Have you ever broken a promise? Has someone ever made a promise to you and then broken it? Or set up like an anchor in your head at what you thought they were going to do and then they didn't do it? You know, life and leadership is about promises. The word promise means to send toward. And today I want to ask you, are your words cheap? If your words are cheap, believe me, they'll cost you a lot. Sadly, a lot of our leaders today don't really understand the power of a broken promise. Politicians do it all the time. We've seen the outcome right around this country with people saying one thing, doing another. And of course, we all fall into that category every now and again. No one is perfect. No one is 100% congruent. But we expect more from our leaders. We expect more, especially from those that govern us. Can you imagine if you were in a relationship where they never let you out, punished you if you did anything, restricted you to a certain space and time, called you out and blamed you for things you didn't do? You would call that abusive. Yet government's doing that right now. Right now, governments are doing it in many, many states under the guise of, we're doing this for your own good. No, you're not. You're doing this to control. Because the facts and numbers which I've shared with you in previous nights just don't add up. When you say one thing and then do a flip, that's a broken promise. And people find that hard to trust. Believe me, in my lifetime, I've broken some promises and paid dearly for it. But I wonder right now, and I want to speak to all of you watching on about promises that you make to yourself. Forget about the politicians right now. See, there is a power in a promise. Words that are cheap often cost a lot more than what you realize. You see, a promise is a big word, and a promise is either something that makes something or completely breaks something. You either make something of a promise or it completely breaks something. Now, I know as a dad, I've broken some promises and forgot games and forgot recitals and things like that. And of course, they have their own consequences. But I want to help you right now to understand that a promise is a very weighty thing. A promise can create a future. A promise can create love. A promise can create friendship. A promise is something leaders do to win your trust. I really believe that one of the greatest things we can do is learn to be people of promise. A promise is a declaration that you'll do something, that you'll be something, that you'll help others become something. In the old days, promises were sealed by a handshake. Now, today, you can have contracts this thick and it doesn't mean a thing. Frankie Valli from the Four Seasons talks about the contract that he signed with his co-writer at that time, and it was done by a handshake. And now, all these years later, they talk about the famous New Jersey handshake. When Bill Gordon said to him, I think it was Bill Gordon anyway, forgive me if I get the name wrong, he said, can we have a contract? He said, let me give you a Jersey contract, and he shook his hand. There used to be a time when a man's word, and a woman's word, by the way, were their bond. Now we view it with skepticism. Why? Because we've become used to broken promises. Why are we so skeptical about our political leaders? Well, because they constantly break promises. They constantly fudge numbers. They constantly tell us things that aren't true. And then right now in this enlightened age, particularly when you can look at one of these things and find out as much information as you want, and then they throw at you, you're a conspiracy theorist. And by the way, let me tell you something. Some of these conspiracy theorist friends that we've got right now, they're sounding a lot more saner than a lot of political stuff's going on. But a constantly broken promise leads to disappointment, leads to anxiety, certainly leads to anger, leads to disconnection, whether that's in life, whether that's in business, whether that's in government. You see, there was a movement many, many years ago, a men's movement called Promise Keepers. And the whole thing was there was a declaration made by these men that they would keep certain promises. Why? Because many men had broken these promises. And I really believe a promise is a resolution. Now, let me ask you, are you one of these people that makes promises or seeks promises and then makes excuses? You see, the biggest person you can make a promise to is yourself. And that's personal accountability. A promise is stronger than a goal. You know, for many years I've talked about goal setting and setting goals, but have you gone above that? and become a person of promise, instilling promise, keeping promise. You see, a promise carries the weight of emotion. A promise carries a seal of commitment. A promise carries within it the character of a person, and a promise is a declaration that this thing will be. Now, a goal, on the other hand, is basically non-emotional. A promise can be potent with emotion. A goal can be a non-declaration, something you put on a wall or something you just throw out there. But a promise is a declare that this will be. A goal has sets a time, but a promise, listen to me, is timeless. It endures. A goal has an arrival point, but a promise, watch this, is a way of doing life every step of the way. A goal has a time, a date, a set point, but a promise is committing to the growth of the individual, the community, and the business. A goal is something you do. A promise is something you keep. A goal is born in the head, but a promise is birthed in the heart. You know, when something is birthed in the heart, as many leaders promise us things, as they promise help and they promise this and they promise that, yet those very people become our jail keepers. They become our incarcerators. You know, in a relationship, when someone gets married, whether it be male or female, and believe you me, both male and female are proponents and people that actually disperse abuse. Some might be domestically with physical, but others do it emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and verbally. Still the same pain, just depending on the type of person and temperament. You don't have to beat anyone with a stick for you to abuse them emotionally. You see, as a child, I don't necessarily remember as a child, as an adult now, I don't remember or feel the beatings that my father gave me, but I certainly remember some of the words, and they resonate, and thank God for his healing power. But you see, a promise that is birthed from the heart, what it breaks is the heart or the spirit of a person. And right now, our political leaders, you make no mistake about it, you're breaking the spirit of a nation. You're breaking the spirit of a nation. When you ban an Anzac Day, you allow black lives matter. When you propose anarchism, and yet you've got great, amazing Aboriginal leaders in our community that want to work within and keep and work the system, work the culture to their advantage, and rather we ostracize them. I'm telling you, you're breaking the spirit of a nation. When we promise something and dangle it like a carrot, and then we do bribe and threat, you're breaking the spirit of a nation. You're breaking the heart. Do that with your children, you'll break the spirit. Do it in business, you'll break the whatever sense of customer loyalty you have. You see, you have to make a promise and keep it, at least to the best of your ability. You see, a promise to see things through, a promise to avoid naysayers, a promise to leave a legacy, a promise to be a friend. All of these things carry the potency of promise. You see, you can actually be a promise to people. Do you realize that? You can be a promise to people. What do you mean by that, Pat? You can be a promise to people, something or someone that people look up to, admire, someone that they say, wow, there's a guy that I can be accountable to. You can help people keep promises. You see, the deepest promise you're ever going to make is to yourself. Several years ago, I had so much accountability around me. People talk about accountability. And basically, I messed up my life. Because the number one person I wasn't accountable to was myself. You can have more accountability. You can have more men's group, more breakfast meetings, more round tables, more discussion groups than you can poke a stick at. You can go to more AA meetings and everything else. But unless you are accountable to yourself, you see, here's the problem with our political leaders. They don't believe they're breaking any promises. Do you know why? Deception's a terrible thing. You see, when you tell a lie and you know it's a lie, you kind of go, yeah, well, you know it's a lie. But when you tell a lie, you know it's a lie, and you believe it, man, you need help. And people do this constantly, especially in political leaderships. They're telling a lie, they know it's a lie, yet they believe it. And that's scary. Can I encourage you to make promises to yourself? I think it was Shakespeare that said, to thine own self be true. Now, could I encourage you, if you've broken promises, don't let that define you. Own it. I'll tell you something about Australians. I'll tell you something about people globally. They love people when they're honest with their mistakes. Do you know part of the problem right now in the culture we've got is that people see mistakes as weakness. I see mistakes as growing. If some of our political leaders out there and government leaders and the health experts say, you know what, we made a mistake, we're sorry, we can build on that. Come on, you respond to me in this. I know there's a place for you to chat in there. You would honor and you would respect that. But when you tell another one, or make excuses, or play blamatitis, that cripples a nation and it breaks trust. It breaks the human soul. And why our leaders can't see that is beyond me. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't be a person of promise. So how can you keep promises, and what promises can you make? Well, number one, make a promise to yourself that you'll do things that build your life and build other people's lives. Be a builder of people. Be a builder of people. Build yourself. Make a promise that you'll fill your mind. You know, our body needs vitamins, needs nutrition. So does your mind. It needs nutrients in that mind for it to grow. It's important to promise yourself to do that. It's important to make promises like, I will value others and add value to others. Do you know what? Do you value other people? Do you value their gifts, or do you use them? Have you valued people enough to be a giver? Have you valued people enough to promote them? Or are you threatened by their existence? You see, I really believe that one of the greatest things we can do is continually add value and promise ourselves, I will be a value adder, not a value taker, not a depleter. You know, there are people out there that pride themselves on making you look bad to make them feel good. Avoid them. They are toxic to the core. They are toxic to the core. Now, if you make a promise, whether it's in your life, whether it's to your spouse, whether it's to your kids, keep it. And if you break it, be quick to admit it. Another thing is this: promise to be a generous person. Generous with your words, generous with your money, generous with your abilities. You see, generosity is not in donation. Generosity is not in donation. Generosity, watch this, is a way of doing life, and it's in consecration. Consecrating yourself to people, to the betterment of humanity, to adding value to people. Here's a promise that we should make. Make a promise to keep up your standards. Do not lower your standards to other people's reactions, to other people's opinions. You know, the other day I put up a post, and I love it how people love to correct you. You know, I put up a post about the face covering, and someone said, oh, India is Hindu. I know. But there are a lot of Muslim people there as well. And by the way, I have a lot of Muslim friends. I have a lot of Hindu friends. I have a lot of Baha'i friends. I have a lot of straight friends. I have a lot of gay friends. My friends are my friends. I love people and accept people of all race, color, creed, and gender. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them. Do you know, are you lowering your standards to worship at the shrine of other people's opinions? Are you lowering your standards? Are you making compromises? I can tell you right now, our political leaders are certainly doing that. They're making compromises for other people's agendas. They're making compromises to appease certain failures, certain wrongs that they need to cover. If you just come clean, if you just be honest, people can cope with that. People can't cope with continuations of broken promises. I tell you what they do. They learn to distrust. They learn to be cynical. They learn to be bitter, and they learn to not vote for you. If they're in business, they learn to find somewhere else where they can do business. You see, you've got to make promises. Watch this. You've got to make promises to forget the pain of your past and get on with your future. Do you know what we're going through right now? Let me assure you, this is going to pass. You're going to look back on it, and things that so stressed you out right now, in a couple of years' time, you're thinking, what the hell was I thinking about? Sorry, what the heck was I thinking about? What was I stressed about? You know, some of the things that are causing you anxiety right now, in a few years' time, some of them will be almost laughable to a degree. Are you the kind of person who wants to rise up and understand that this too will pass and get on to a higher level of living? Last night, I sat and watched a documentary on my good friends, Danny and Layla Abdullah. They lost their children in a terrible, terrible accident by an awful, irresponsible drunk driver and just a culpable passenger. How on earth? The guy who was also in the car, allegedly drunk also, couldn't stop the guy traveling at 100 kilometers an hour. Both of those men are responsible. Both. By the way, I haven't heard what's happening with the court case, and who knows? Maybe there's a media gag on it. Who knows? But I want to say this about Layla and Danny and their whole family. They never let their standards drop in the midst of their pain. They're honoring God. They're honoring their belief. People are trying to get revenge. He says, that's not going to bring my kids back. They're not living their lives at the level of human anger and emotion and resentment. They're living their lives in reflection of their children still watching. How are you living your life? Good question to ask our political leaders. Good question to ask ourselves. Are you living your life at the level that you know and in the effort you know in your relationship with your husband and your wife? Are you living at the level of the effort they rightfully deserve? You made a promise. You made a promise. For better or worse. It's called a covenant. To your clients, are you promising yourself to be a better person, feed yourself and grow? If I'm in real estate, I know people are entrusting me the most valuable asset outside their children, a property. What am I doing to increase myself, to grow myself, to become the agent that they can trust and know that I'll do the best? Or am I just doing it because I've got a good brand? In the area of education, are you educating your mind? You out there that are sons and daughters of others, are you working on yourself to be a better son, a better daughter, or are you just blaming your parents from your dysfunction that you become addicted to because you're addicted to your dysfunction? Because without your dysfunction and your addiction, you wouldn't have an excuse for your lousy, pathetic behavior. Yeah, I know that's pretty straight, but you know it's true. Rather than dealing with your issues, you'd seek to find blame. It's a lot easier because when you blame, you don't change. One of the things I've encouraged myself to do, every time I make a mistake or a promise, apologize for it, learn out of it and grow. Are you a person whose words are expensive and you live to that level? Are you an Aldi type of person that comes out of your mouth? Or are you a David Jones, Maya Sachs, Fifth Avenue? Again, I'm not picking on brands here. Please don't. I'm not saying that. You know what I'm saying. Are your words cheap? Do you say sorry just because, well, it's the thing to do? Or do you say sorry because you intend to change? Sorry without change is not sorry at all. It's just a Band-Aid on a cancer. And all it does is spread the cancer. Can I encourage you right now to be the kind of people that keep a promise? Now, we've made a promise to you that this Sunday is going to be sensational. My great friend, the legendary Mark Victor Hansen, at 500 million copies of his books have sold worldwide. And he's coming to do a special broadcast, and we'll have this in the chat. Now, our seats are limited. We have literally close to 1,000 already registered. We have several seats available still. I want to encourage you to be part of this. I want you to learn about the future today for tomorrow. I want to prepare you for a great success. Both Mark and I are going to be speaking and sharing. I've prepared something special. Many of you have got gifts, talents, abilities that you can monetize and grow. Many of you need to learn to reset your own economy rather than the agendas that are out there. I'm urging you, get on this webinar. It's 3-4 hours long. We're going to have Mark there. At the end, we're going to have a question and answer time. I know there's going to be a lot of media out there. You've probably seen the advertisements. Get a seat. Be there. Please, in life, don't learn just from the accessible. Learn from the greats. Mark is a modern day legend. There's never going to be another one like him. Never been one like him, never will be. Why would you miss out on this? To hear from one of the greatest minds of our modern era, to hear about a man who's created wealth, not for himself, for others, 500 million copies of his books, licensed more products. He is a consultant to leaders and politicians and economists and people of state all over the world. Access the great. Access the great. You know, you can hear a church sermon any day of the week. And I'm not down on church sermons. We'll have our reborn on early Sunday morning. But some of you need to come up a level. And I'm not belittling church. Church is great. But this is a once in a lifetime. So make sure you're part of it. Guys, this is Pat Mesiti, live at 5. Press like, press share, spread the word. Please, if you enjoyed this broadcast, can you share it? Can you share it with your friends? Let's create a groundswell, a grassroots movement of people that keep their promises, and let's set our world on fire with good news. God bless you. You have a prosperous life.